house. We just said like we're here to have a good chat, get to talk about some things. There's some things he may or may not be able to answer, but we can ask. So like I said, no pressure in asking a question, no pressure in answering one either. And we're just here to have a talk and get some hopefully questions answered today. And that's what we're here for.
And especially want to thank John for, he's for the last 6 months since we've had the MMTLP hold, he's been public, he's been available, he's been very cordial in answering questions and coming into public spaces, and for that, I give him my utmost respect and thanks. So, and that continues today. So, welcome, John.
Hey, thank you guys. Great to be here.
Yeah, we're excited.
We're very happy to have you. We're always interested in anything you have to say, John.
John, we're up to 700 people already, so there you go.
Excellent.
All right, well, Terry, why don't you kick off?
Okay. First, I'd just like to give John the mic, just if there's anything he would like to say before we get started. That way, it does not any kind of words or anything he would like to say before we get started, and then we can do that again. If John, you want to give us like a 10-minute timer when you have to like dip out, we can like do like a final.
Actually, I have an hour for the call, so
okay.
That's where my timing is.
So, okay. All right. So sounds good. All right.
So I guess we can just start off with questions, Terry. I really don't have. I think I've spoken to the crowd on many occasions. Extremely appreciative of everybody's input, and there's a lot of market dynamics at work, and there's a lot of personalities at work, and everybody working together is how we're gonna hopefully solve this problem. So I appreciate everyone's input.
All right, yes, I'm gonna start off with a couple questions. Like I said, if you're unable to answer it, please just say you're unable to answer it, and we'll move on, and we'll keep the space rolling. So my first question is there any updates of Mr. West Christian and Flamethrower, or any of the lawsuits in general?
Yes, there is. We'll talk about it a little bit. I think it's this Friday when we're doing the call. There's some information that we're still waiting on from Share Intel, and it's no fault of their own, but there's still some information we're waiting on there. And if we can get that information, we'll be ready to move forward in a manner that is going to be beneficial to anybody who wants to participate. And it's quite frankly, it's a first shot across the bow. It's not an end all, but it's a way for us to get the discovery process going, so we can identify who the bad actors are and how bad the bad acting has been. And so that's we need to get that going, because it doesn't seem like we're going to get that voluntarily. So we want to get a particular lawsuit filed, so we can get past the motion to dismiss, which is going to come, and then go from there.
Okay, yeah. I would like Tony to step in talking about that. Tony put out a video the other day. Now this was just Tony's thoughts. But, talking about settlement and things like that, one of the main things we want is definitely people, the bad actors in a sense, to possibly go to jail and to make an example out of, if you do this counterfeiting, that you should have prison time. So I'm going to let Tony take over for this quick little part here.
Yeah, so my thought was that, I was an MMTLP shareholder. Everyone here was also an MMTLP shareholder, and we were expecting an Nextbridge hydrocarbons dividend. And as we know, there are shorts in play here, so the shorts had to deliver a dividend, right? So because there is currently, according to FINRA, a short position in Nextbridge hydrocarbons, which was a dividend, that means that the shorts never delivered that dividend, and it's been over 150 days. So at some point, doesn't this become a default situation? And shouldn't they be closing this, John? What do you think?
I think you're spot on in your assessment. My not legal mind, the question is, what are the buttons we have to push to force that issue? Because the first thing you have to do is uncover who the bad actors are. Who are the people that hold the short positions? and they're not going to raise their hands voluntarily. So I think you have to force that hand with the individual broker dealers, and the only way to do that is to sue each one of them individually. That's correct. And so that in order to save money, the only way to do that practically is to do some sort of class action, and to get everybody, to get all the defendants in a class and get all the plaintiffs in a class.
So what are your thoughts about this? So we've seen a lot of chit chat going on about class action lawsuits versus settlement. What are your thoughts on all this? I mean, do you have any idea?
Yeah. So my thoughts on the class action would be not to compel settlement. My thoughts on class action are to compensate us for your bad acts. As you know, criminal aspects and things that have gone on requires a district attorney somewhere to bring it up and say, okay, I'm going to file charges. That's different than a civil matter. So in my understanding of things, I would love to have everyone's settlement done either through trading or some other method. But that doesn't dismiss or excuse the bad acts, and they should be punished for those. So I think my personal feeling is they're separate issues.
Oh, excellent. So we can have both. We can have both the days of trading. We can have or settlement, and these guys can actually serve prison time potentially.
Yeah, I think that's going to be a function of a DA or FBI or some Justice Department activity to get that done. I think it's warranted for sure. But keep in mind, let's just say this thing trades for 2 days, which we don't know if it will or will not. But think about it, you're not going to get 65,000 or 70,000 or 80,000 people to sign a release. And so it's just not going to happen. So that from that standpoint of releasing them from liabilities, I don't see it happening. And so I believe that at the end of the day, when a broker dealer finally gets sued, and they will, that they're going to pass the buck down the line. So it'll start with the broker dealers that are supposed to be holding long positions, and then they're going to sue the market maker. They're going to turn around and sue the market maker, who's going to sue the broker dealer who sold them the shares, and then that broker dealer is going to sue the hedge funds who naked shorted it. And so there'll be a series of insurance and a series of lawsuits that go on that we have nothing to do with, but it has to start with the dealer that's supposed to have the long position, because they are the broker dealer that faces the community. So that's kind of how I see it going.
So, John, are you saying basically what the flamethrower action is going to be kind of the first link in the chain to break, and set the ball rolling, so to speak?
That's correct. And the unique aspect of that is that if we do it correctly, and let's just say this first action is a class action on behalf of shareholders for not to settle the shares, but to punish one of the deeds that has gone on. What's interesting about that is you have to opt into the class. And in order to opt into the class, you have to show evidence that you own the stock on December 8th, 2022. And so that's going to really help us in all the other activity that we need, because they'll be required to submit either a statement from AST, or they'll have to submit a broker-dealer statement that says they own the stock. And guess what? We're going to have our first shot at one of the most accurate share counts that we could have. Now, the big question is, how do we get it out to all of the shareholders? I know we have a pretty good audience on Twitter, but that's not all of it. I mean, it's nowhere near all of it. So how do we effectively communicate for people to participate when, quite frankly, we know that the broker-dealers aren't disseminating that information to everyone?
Maybe you could ask the DTCC for a list of your shareholders.
That's a great question. I don't believe DTCC knows who our shareholders are.
I would imagine you're correct on that one. Just going back to the flamethrower, Wes Christian mentioned some months ago that within the next month or so you would see the mother lode of all naked shorts. Now, we all assume he meant, and he was referring to MMTLP. Would that still stand true? And obviously, we haven't heard anything from him in that respect.
I don't know what if he was referring to MMTLP because he's handling several cases. I assume that's the case, but I'm not going to speak for him.
Okay, that's fair enough.
But in addition to that, as I mentioned earlier, the information that we are lacking from Share and Tell is now, let's just say all that activity is in play currently. So we're waiting for. He was delayed probably 2-3 months.
Yes.
But now that he has all the authority, he can now actually go after that information, which is going to require Broadridge to participate, and DTCC and AST. So.
Has he found the FOIA request information that was unearthed useful?
Well, for his purposes, I mean, he was interested in it. Sure, everybody thought it was useful from a standpoint of, okay, they knew what was going on and they decided to take a different course of action completely.
Okay.
But from the way that Share and Tell does their analytics, it's all numbers based. So they take and they have an algorithm that they produce. They basically take information from Broadridge on a specific day, and then they compare that with the DTCC information on that same specific day, and then they cross-reference that to AST, and then they make basic assumptions based upon the top 20 broker dealers that are out there, because that's where most of the activity comes from. And I would argue that the top 20 broker dealers in our deal are the ones that are most likely the culprits of failure to receive in this case.
So would the Share and Tell information include the original Torchlight shareholders?
It doesn't break it down on a per shareholder basis. It breaks it down on a number of shares. So, for example, on June 25th, or I think it's June 25th, 2021, I've asked for the information on how many shares long in Torchlight were there worldwide on that date. And Broadridge certainly has it, because they go in and query daily. Broadridge does, because they never know when a vote's going to happen, so they query daily. It's kind of like Plaid does on their banking system. If you guys are familiar with how Plaid works, where they can go in and see a snapshot of your account, it's very similar to that, where they can go into a broker dealer and see a snapshot of a particular security on that day. And so if TD Ameritrade or E-Trade had 20 million shares long on that day, it would be reflected. And what they do is they say, okay, on this particular day at the top 20 houses, they were offsides by X amount of shares. And that tells you that there is a failure to receive and a failure to deliver in the system on that specific day.
So this would take into account all the shares currently that are outstanding.
It should.
What you're saying.
It should. Now, the answer to that question, it won't completely, because they only query the top 20 houses, and there's 105 houses.
Oh, I see. Okay, yeah. So it'll be like 90%. It'll be like 95%.
That's right.
Which is still quite good. Yeah.
Yeah, it's good. And so what it does, it's designed to provide statistical information so that you can use it in a court of law to tell the judge why you're going after somebody. Here's the evidence. Here's the
I'm sorry,
guys. I was on somebody tried to call me. I wish we could do this on a computer so you don't get interrupted on your phone, but that happens.
Yeah, it would be useful.
Yes. So what I was saying is that this is designed to tell a judge why you're going after somebody because of an imbalance and a failure to receive or a failure to deliver. So that's what it's designed to do.
Okay. John, are you looking forward to the 19th?
Yeah.
Please talk about that. Please talk about that. I'm interested to see how keen you are on that date.
I hope that everything happens on the 19th in due course, because I can't wait to rebut it with, help Mark rebutting the whole thing. I think I've talked to a number of people, Curtis and probably a dozen others, that when that information comes out with FINRA, be prepared to load Mark up on a rebuttal, because it's going to be glorious. And so,
I understand Mark's got several plans ready. I mean, he's
Right.
expecting, he's got preset plans for all the responses that FINRA are going to throw back at him. So it'll be interesting to see if they actually come up with something that he's not prepared for, which I doubt they will.
The other thing is that I'm fully expecting this immunity. Yes, we're fully expecting, hey, it's under investigation, we can't give you this. That's all gonna be. It's going to be, yeah.
Yeah, is it possible? I mean, putting forward the argument that the blue sheet data for MMTLP, it's an extinct security.
It's an extinct. It certainly is. But you
Yeah.
tell me you don't have an electronic record of it.
Yeah, but it's like, surely, Judge, there can be no harm in releasing data on a stock that isn't trading.
That's right.
Or isn't going to trade again. Surely it's historical data. It can't affect a share price. It can't promote a stock. It can't, enrich people or people can't lose on this now.
Right.
Surely it's completely fair that the data, the historical data, is released.
I would agree. You and I are on the same page on that.
Thank you, John. Finally, yes.
All right.
Terry.
Yes, that was amazing. Actually, that was like great. I loved everything I heard there. Exciting stuff.
The other thing on that, Terry, real quick, is that if we get a response from FINRA on time, and we get a week to answer, provided that the judge basically sets the hearing date, I think we need to show up and be loud and proud, not disrespectful, but make a showing in the courtroom that these are the people that have been affected by this. And I understand that the hearing is public, that you can actually go into the courtroom. So I think that would be fantastic.
Yeah, I'm very keen to get a list of the people from the MMTLP community who are actually planning on attending that hearing. Mm-hmm. I'm sure there's some key people in the community that are actually going.
Yeah, and we can definitely get the word out, so everyone's aware of it. That's for sure.
Yeah, I think, that would be a fantastic time to get somebody like Charles Payne or some other type of media there so that we can bring attention to this, because it's that judge is going to be she's going to have a very important role to play now this thing settles out.
Did we not have Investor Place? Was it Investor Place? Your best friends, John. Investor Place. Writes an article on, FINRA's actually getting dragged into court.
Yeah, I didn't read the article now.
Okay, I think there is one. If anyone give me a thumbs up, I think there was one. People. But yeah, it's a bit trashy reading, to be honest, John. Don't waste your time. I'm sure you know what sort of angle they're taking with that, but they're actually promoting the fact, in the case of any publicity is good publicity. It hopefully draws some attention. FINRA are being dragged into court. When was the last time that happened?
That's a great question.
Yeah, and who did it?
Okay. Yeah, that there is going to be amazing. Kind of one of the other questions I had here, I guess it kind of relates to all this happening up, but a lot of investors are wanting to know, this is just personal opinion right now because the facts aren't out, but is there any kind of a timeline for a settlement of this year?
I wouldn't know. That's purely out of everyone's hands, to be honest with you. The only entity that can probably tell you whether there's going to be a settlement this year or if it's going to trade for 2 days is FINRA.
And hopefully we'll get that soon.
Yeah. They don't seem to want to talk to anybody.
So, John, you've got a lot of, you actually know the Nextbridge Department management, you know what they're like, Greg McCabe and all that. They've been relatively quiet for a while. Can you give your opinion on, what their state of mind is, what they're thinking, possibly?
Well, I know Greg really, really well. He's a very close friend of mine. And, Greg is letting Clifton run the organization like he's supposed to. Clifton is an attorney, and Melbourne is a very cautious attorney group. So I would say that they are, everything that they put out has been inspected a dozen times. And I know that they are being very cautious about what they say and don't say. And really that's what's happening right now. So I have no idea when they're going to communicate. I have no idea what they're doing. Clifton and I do not talk, even though we're friends, because I'm out here, in front of people, and he doesn't want me to talk on his behalf, which I don't, and or on his behalf, and so that's
right. Your confidence level is very high with this organization. Yes.
Well, yeah, I really like the team. I think that they want to just be an oil and gas company in the worst way, and be done with this mess. But unfortunately, they walked into a shitstorm, and I don't begrudge them for that, because that's not easy.
They were fully expecting to just, at the end of December last year, get the company, have it completely spun off with just their genuine shareholders. Would that be correct?
100%. Yeah.
Okay. John, I had to have a touchy question for you. Okay. By the way, I never apologize for asking touchy questions, but and I kind of know what your answer is already, but I have been kind of pushed to ask this question. And I know it's not even really up to you to answer, but we have a community member called Jennifer who has apparently been in communication with Clifton Dubose with some emails. And the community are always asking, are these emails genuine? Are they actually correct? And is that actually genuine, Clifton emails? So I don't know whether you are able to comment on that. But if you could, I'm sure some people in the community would most welcome the closure on that question.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know why they wouldn't be genuine. I have no reason to believe that they wouldn't be. To be honest with you, I've seen them posted, but I haven't really spent a whole lot of time on them. But I know Clifton has emailed Jennifer in the past, so I don't know why they wouldn't continue to do so. So I have really no stance on that. I can't tell you if they're 100% legitimate or if they're 100% fake. I couldn't tell. I have no idea of knowing. But it wouldn't make sense to me that somebody would take the time to fake those. That just doesn't make any sense.
Okay, thank you, John. I appreciate you answering that question, and I hope that satisfies some people in the community.
That has been the burning question. That has been the burning question. I mean, I'd like to believe that they're real too. And the recent one I covered in my last video actually is Jennifer's email from Clifton stating, and I'll read it here because I have it on my Twitter. And I just did it, word for word, that we are possibly going to be getting, a Nextbridge PR. So, and he even emailed her back saying that he apologized because it wasn't going to be out over the weekend, and we should be seeing a Nextbridge PR this week. So that'll be really exciting. And even saying that Jason has been working on the FAQ questions that she sent over. I think it was like 5+ pages. So we may get some more answers on those FAQ questions from Nextbridge, and hopefully we get 1 or 2 Nextbridge PRs coming up. So I guess we will all see, and that will definitely put it to rest too. If the PRs come out and that's what's being shared, then obviously they're legit in my opinion. So we let that go and see how this next week goes and see if we get the PRs.
Right. We'll both know at the same time.
Absolutely. Go ahead.
Sorry guys, just a quick thank you to everyone who's joined us. We've got over 1,100 people in the room now, so thank you to all the listeners and the community members who have joined us this afternoon or this evening, wherever you are. We do appreciate you being here. It's fantastic to have John Brda here this afternoon with Terry as host and Tony as co-host, and me talking too much. But yeah, welcome to the new listeners. We're over 1,100 now, so thank you. So Terry, another question for John, or?
Yes, I do. So we were just you were mentioning recently speaking about Mr. Greg McCabe, and one thing I always remember when us investors are having our bad days and like our money's tied up and things can be hard in life. I always remember back to that one space call where we were talking with you about Mr. Greg McCabe and about where Greg McCabe would say hell no, that he basically would not do anything to help out them short sellers. So I just like to touch base on Mr. Greg McCabe and his this reminisce on that because I think just hearing that again of how Greg McCabe hates this situation and what's been going on can really just get people excited again.
Yeah, there's no doubt in my mind that Greg is in full support of what the community is doing. He doesn't want to, quite frankly, he's a huge shareholder in MetaMaterials as well, and he hates what's happening there. So we all want to get to the bottom of it. We all want to see everyone get their justice in MMTLP, and quite frankly, we all want to see the markets fixed. It's tragic what happened to MMTLP, and it's also tragic what happened to MMAT. I would bet you the same cast of characters that were in MMTLP are the ones that have destroyed metamaterials. And I just feel that way from the bottom, in my soul, that that's what's happened. And so, Greg and I are on the same page on that 100%.
I do concur with you, John, that the MMAT situation is completely tied to the MMTLP situation, and the two do go hand in hand. And the halt of MMTLP was just an opportunity for the same, probably exactly the same actors who were also mirroring the positions in MAT to crash that right down again.
Absolutely.
So, John, I'm curious. We've, as you know, we recently went to Congress and all that, and Anna Trade spoke to Gary Gensler, and he mentioned that the SEC was 100% aware of the MMTLP situation. So, but as far as we know, they've done nothing. Do you have any idea or speculation as to what they might even be thinking?
I wish I did. It's very frustrating, and I have no color on that whatsoever. The SEC is notorious for not talking to anybody other than attorneys, and I don't know if Nextbridge's attorneys are talking to him. I hadn't heard that they were. I don't know if the MetaMaterials attorneys are talking to him. I have not heard that they were. But I do know when I was in charge of Torchlight, I never spoke to anybody at SEC unless an attorney was on the phone. So I just don't see them unless somebody forces their hand. I don't see this. I don't see the SEC jumping up and down saying we've got to get this satisfied.
Are Nextbridge able to force the SEC's hand using I'm going to say it, the S-1? People have been waiting all evening for me to say that.
I don't know why I know that their financials are stale at this point, but I don't even know why the first S-1 was delayed. I have no idea.
Oh, John's had
a lot of calls. I had a phone call. Sorry about that. I don't even know why the first one was delayed, and I haven't asked, and I haven't pressed because they're gonna do what they're gonna do anyway. So at this point, I know that the financials need to be filed and then updated in the S1 before anything could be approved.
Okay, yeah, that's interesting. I heard something about that earlier this week, that there were some financials that needed updating, and it did need to be refiled. But again, I'm completely mystified as to the duration of the delay on the S1 is quite astounding. I mean, that was the end of January that was filed originally, and now we're approaching the month of June.
Yeah, it was delayed for whatever reason. We don't know. I don't believe a reason was given. And interestingly enough, probably 95% of the S1 was the exact same S1 they approved in November.
It seems so straightforward.
Yeah.
I've read the damn thing, and sorry, I didn't mean to swear. Damn's not a swear word. I've read it, and it just seems so straightforward. There's nothing controversial. There's nothing tricky. There's nothing that harms anybody in that document, and I can't for the life of me figure out a reason, apart from that there is a reason that we don't know, as to why it's delayed.
And the FOIA request was also denied, don't forget.
Yes, Bird Lady Rollerpitch's had a FOIA request denied on. She put a FOIA request in for the SEC comments letter on the S-1, and that was denied on the grounds of, I think, what was the legal jargon, Tony?
Something about foreseeable harm.
Foreseeable harm, yes.
Foresaw some harm.
Did you not know that, John?
No, I didn't know that.
Okay, I'll send you that later.
I would be shocked, guys, if we got any FOIA requests approved other than the one that was already approved. I think that was a mistake. I think that one got through the cracks somehow, and I believe that's the last one we're going to see approved until this thing is settled out.
So that brings an interesting question to mind. A while back, you mentioned that level 2 order books showed that the prices would go all the way up to about $4,000 a share, and that was only for settling what, 5 million shares?
Yeah, I tweeted about it. It was a retweet of somebody that posted it online. So yeah, I talked about that.
So did you see the level 2 order books, John?
I personally didn't. I saw it on the tweet that showed that, but yes, that's where I saw it.
Oh, okay, I see.
Yeah, it's all over Twitter. I'm sure everybody can find it.
Yeah, I did a few different videos on it, retweeted it and everything like that as well. I just want to make sure I got all the questions out that I wanted to give. I didn't want to take up all the space. We have a lot of people in here. I want to make sure Tony and Gray, if they have any other questions, they get them out. And then I figure we can go down and start getting some people some mics and getting a few minutes on each person, getting some questions to John while we have his time here.
Yeah, thank you, Tony. I'm actually good. I actually slipped in a couple of cheeky ones there that maybe I shouldn't have done, but I did anyway. Thank you to John for answering those, completely in the correct manner. So, Tony, if you've got anything else you want to ask, or maybe we could go to some mics.
No, I'm great. Perhaps we should go to audience questions if possible.
Okay, fantastic.
Okay, Gray, I'll let you give a mic to B2B. He's definitely the first one that gets a mic.
Oh, really? Okay, I actually can't see him on my list of mics. So,
Okay, I'll get him.
I'm sorry, I'm just going to clear the mic list. And also, look, Terry's the host, okay? It's not me. Terry's the host.
I think I got him.
Just approve B2B, Terry.
I got him.
Yeah.
Okay.
Welcome B2B. I approved it. Did he not? Did he disappear?
I approved him too.
Okay. He got multiple approval.
Is he here? I can't see him.
I don't see him now.
Okay, all right, well, we'll move on.
Okay.
Let's move on.
What about Russ Race, maybe? He seems to be next in my list.
All right. You can approve Russ.
Well, Russ, so yeah. I mean, three people approved the same mic. There we go.
Good to go, Russ.
Hi, Russ.
Hey guys, hey John, thanks. Thanks again for answering my questions earlier, but all I wanted to do was offer you, McCabe, and Clifton an open invitation to join Retail United. That's
Yeah,
it's just an open invitation.
thanks, Russ.
It doesn't mean you have to say yes now, later, whatever.
All right. Thanks, Russ. Can we go to some questions, though? Sorry.
Okay.
Let's get CFS, Ocean Sailing, up next, maybe, I think.
See, we got Allie in here too. I don't know if he was like.
CFS, approved your mic. Thank you. Hello?
There.
he is.
Welcome in.
Takes a moment to clear.
Yeah.
Can I ask my questions?
Yep. Go ahead.
CFS.
Okay, John, I'm a little confused. I have a few questions. One, because, like two months ago, Andrew kept saying that a subpoena was sent. Is that true that a congressman sent a subpoena? That's my first question.
I am not aware of a subpoena being sent. I know there's been communication letters that have gone to FINRA and SEC, but I am not aware of an actual subpoena, which is different. That's the next level up from a from a letter, so to speak, and quite frankly, yeah, I don't know if that's happened.
Okay, my next question is, I'm confused. Are you, because I remember you posted that you hired West Christian to do an investigation. Is that investigation now turning into a class action lawsuit? And if it is it just for you or is it for all investors?
No, so I think I talked about this earlier. If we do file a class action, certainly we've already, our group Flamethrower has put up all the money to do all the due diligence.
Right.
And if we filed a class action suit based upon what we know, everyone would have the opportunity to join that class. We're not doing this for our, to enrich ourselves on the backs of everybody else. Everybody's going to have the opportunity, and quite frankly, the more the better, because it gives us a better snapshot on who our actual shareholders are.
Absolutely. I'm just clarifying a few things. So now what Mark is doing, he's trying to get a judge to tell Fringer to produce the blue sheets. Why hasn't Christian done this already? That's where I'm a little confused.
It's a different methodology. So
Okay.
Mark is a specialist in basically dealing with companies that have done bad financings through nefarious funds that prey on smaller companies, either through toxic lending, what have you. And he was aware of this opportunity in New York, whereas Wes is out of Houston. It's really restricted to certain localities. And so they communicated on it and talked about it. And Wes and our other attorney, Alan, said, yeah, go ahead and file it, see what we can get, because they are working together.
That's what I thought, that Mark was working with Christian.
Yeah.
And the hearing you were discussing about earlier, is that the hearing that's coming up on the 19th? That everybody should show up?
That's
Okay.
actually, no, the 19th is the date they have to respond in writing.
Right.
And then Mark has a week to respond to that in writing and as a rebuttal. And then the judge has scheduled on May 30th an actual oral hearing, which I believe is open to the public.
And is that in New York?
Yeah, it's New York. I don't know the exact venue. I don't know. I think it's in New York City, but I'm not 100% sure.
Okay, that's it. Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you for the great questions. I believe we got Edward next. Edward, go ahead.
Hey, quick question because I want to hear from Drew and Gandalf. But hey, John, Twitter was bought out, right? So it went private. I'm assuming they had shorts like us. So could Nextbridge sell, knowing that we have shorts?
I think it would be, in my opinion, and this is just my opinion, I think it'd be very difficult for them to sell their entire company. However, keep in mind the assets are in wholly owned subsidiaries. So you could actually sell a subsidiary, in my opinion, but it wouldn't resolve the issue with the shares. So let's say they sold Brda and got $20 billion for it, just throw out a number. They would have to hold that money in basically in escrow until they understood who their shareholders were. Because
What I've always understood was basically the broker's got to pay whatever that price is, right? So I'm assuming that's what happened with Twitter, but I don't know. That's why
Twitter and what happened with Mmtlp are completely different. When you establish a value for that sale, I think it was what for
$53 for Twitter.
$53 per share. That's where everything congregates. That's the sale price, and that's where the shorts have to cover. And
Yes, that's correct.
In our situation, we didn't have that. It was an exchange of share for Mmtlp and Nextbridge. That's what the shorts have to deliver, not money. They have to deliver the share. There's no way of getting around that.
That's right, Edward. The shorts in Twitter have to pay $53.26 per share, and the longs received $53.26 per share, and none of those parties had any choice in the matter because it was a buyout. Now, Nextbridge is not a buyout, okay? It never was a buyout. And the reason there was no squeeze on the Twitter buyout, going private, is because it was a fixed price, and the shares were reciprocated and reconciled one for one until just the normal shares went through into the private company. Also, in that situation, a lot of shorts in Twitter have been shorting it down from $80, so they actually came out with a profit. The difference with Nextbridge is it had to go to market price before the company spun out, and then the shares had to be provided.
I don't want to waste any time on this, but let's say the float's 220 million, and you divide that into that price, you'll get a value, and everybody gets that amount. But I don't want to waste any more time, so.
Okay, all right, thank you, Edward. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Next, I believe we have Gandalf. Go ahead.
Hey, John. I have a couple of questions here for you, and obviously, if I'm touching on any things that shouldn't be discussed, don't hesitate. So I just want to put this in the clear here. If the company, if a sale happens, first of all, is it the sale, and semantics are important, is it the sale of the company or is it the sale of the assets?
The assets of Brda sit in what's called Hudspeth Oil Corporation, which is a wholly owned subsidiary of Nextbridge Hydrocarbons. So you could sell the asset of Nextbridge, or excuse me, of Hudspeth, or you could sell the whole entity. And the reason why you would sell the whole entity, for example, of Hudspeth, let's say you did a stock swap with somebody, then you would have the opportunity to do that. And so there's a lot of reasons why these companies hold their assets in wholly owned subsidiaries, and for a number of different reasons. That's just one of them. So that was set up a long time ago.
Okay, but if a sale of the company or an entity would occur, would that not trigger a shareholder counter revolt?
Depends. Because if you sold Nextbridge, potentially yes. But if you sold Hudspeth Oil Corp, which is a wholly owned subsidiary, all you've done is sold that entity. And so now you've got a shit ton of cash sitting there, or a bunch of stock that you have to find a way to distribute to somebody. And so that would be, cause for, some sort of shareholder accounting, I would say. Hopefully quite frankly, if we wait for that to happen, there's going to be a lot of pissed off people, because we want a solid solution to this now, not when this thing sells. Because there's no guarantee they're going to want to sell this in the near future. What happens if they want to develop it for 5 years and the market is not right to sell the asset? There's a lot of things that go into that. So I want to know who the shareholders are today. I don't want to wait 3 or 4 years, or potentially.
Yeah. Okay. So here's another point that I wanted to address. When you were referring earlier, to the class action lawsuits related to the damaging, and that excludes, the settlement part.
Yep.
If that were to happen, right, and reconciliation happens to MMTLP/Nextbridge, does that mean that whoever had sold their shares during the reconciliation period prior to that class action lawsuit resolving, that means that they automatically opt out? Or how would that work?
Well, any class action has to be shares owned on a specific date. So in this case, I would, in our case, I would argue that probably the date would be December 12th. Because if you bought shares on the 8th and then they halted it that night, your shares would clear on December 12th and be in your account. So that would be the date that they would likely use.
Okay, and it wouldn't matter later on if we still have those shares or not?
No, it doesn't matter. Go.
Okay, perfect. The last point, this has been kind of a thought that was brought up by a shareholder, and we were kind of discussing this. A big problem regarding the float is, the authorized float is 500 million shares. Now, in order to increase that float, there has to be some kind of there has to be a vote in order to increase the authorized float. So how about the Series A preferred share of Nextbridge in the S1? Could that be a way to circumvent it to increase the flow?
Is it? I haven't looked at the S1 in a while. Are the Series A preferred shares in the S1 for Nextbridge?
Yeah, for Nextbridge, I mean. Correct.
So in the recent S1 that they filed to register the 40 million shares, they're registering preferred as well?
They're not registering, but it does state that there is a Series A preferred share, just in general, that could be issued without the without shareholder voting.
That is correct. So those shares, gosh, I'm thinking, if I'm remembering correctly, there's 500 million total shares authorized, and I believe a certain percentage of them are set aside for preferred. And I don't remember if that's 25 or 10 or something. But yeah, those shares can be used as well. And because there's not a whole lot of them, typically the way the preferred shares are issued in a situation like that, each share preferred might represent 1,000 shares of common, just so you don't run out of shares, right?
We're going to have to go and reread the S1 again, I'm afraid.
We got a little bit of homework to do.
We got more. We're going to have to read the damn thing again.
Yes.
Thanks, John. Nice one.
All right. I think the next speaker we got is Costas, I believe.
Just one quick. Thanks, John, again for joining. But does any sale require a vote prior to it being completed?
What will probably any sale would, because of the nature of the size of the sale, would have to be approved by the board. And likely they would get a fairness opinion on that as well. But I'm not sure that their shareholder vote would be required. Not sure.
All right. Very good question. All right. Next on the speaker we got is Mr. Drew himself.
Good afternoon. First of all, I want to say thank you very much to Tony, Gray, and Terry. Thank you for hosting this space. And John, thank you for coming into this space with Terry. Thank you guys very much for doing this. John, I hope you're doing well. I just have two quick questions. Question number one, would you urge the people of this community to continue taking action in the form of now we're calling the Senate Banking Committee? Would you encourage that to continue?
Well, I was on a call today with a staffer, and she was really straightforward with us. And I think she gave some really good advice. She said, as it relates to the House of Representatives, the only people withstanding and that will actually do something about this is the Finance Committee. And then, and that's Patrick McHenry's, chair of that. And she said, so focus all of your efforts on the staffers on that committee, because not only do they have the power to do something, but they actually understand what you're talking about. And she said, so many of us here are overwhelmed. We're down, each rep is probably down one or two people from where they should have been. And she said, because we're in the majority now, a lot of us had never been in the majority. 60% of the staffers have never been in the majority, so they're extremely overwhelmed. So she gave a lot of advice. She said, focus your efforts on the Finance Committee, make it really simple, define what happened in a very short period of time, and define what your ask is, and keep it short and sweet. She goes, because I get 400 or 500 emails a day, and I spend 30 seconds on each one determining what I'm going to do. So that was the most honest anybody's been with us.
Yes. Dave, would you say stick to the House Committee, or would you also say focus some on the Senate Banking Committee?
Yeah, I would say the Senate Banking Committee is not going to hurt either, because they have the power to bring in the SEC and FINRA as well. So
okay. And my next question kind of ties in with that first question. So first of all, to everybody listening, that response indicates to me that we should be approaching all of the members of Congress with our best foot forward and not insulting any of them, because if you insult one, you insult them all, and you can potentially turn them away. They are all colleagues. I'm just going to draw attention to that. And just to kind of piggyback off of that question, it has been said today in a Twitter space that that a PowerPoint presentation was released that was issued by a certain individual that apparently briefed Congress. Have you seen it? And if you have, can you comment on the veracity of it?
Yes, I've seen it, and my comment on it is, it reads like a this is how the system works, right? Which is all fine and dandy if people actually obey the rules. People aren't supposed to murder people. People aren't supposed to steal. People aren't supposed to rape people, but they do every single day. It's the same way with the way the market is supposed to work. If everybody follows the rule, what he put in the PowerPoint is fantastic. But the problem is he doesn't address how people evade the rules, nor does he address the fact that he's completely conflicted not only with the patents that he holds for payment for order flow as well as dark pools, but also he's conflicted in the fact he sits on boards with Ari Rubenstein of GTS, goes on ski trips with him, has let's just say been conflicted and had failed to disclose that to the people he gave the presentation to. And also you have to understand this, is that the people he gave the presentation to, there were some 18 staffers. I would bet you maybe one of them understood it. Maybe.
Was there anything specific to, so you say it was like kind of like this is how the market works, but was there anything specific to MMTLP in there, or would you say there was anything specific to the community, maybe anything disparaging that was said about us?
No, I don't think there was anything disparaging about the community. It was just basically saying, these things are put in place to protect against these things. So I can't believe that this actually happened, that type of bullshit, right? Which we all know is completely irrelevant.
Hogwash. Okay.
Exactly. So
thank you very much for taking my question, John. I appreciate it. And Terry, Tony, Gray, thank you again for hosting this space. Thank you.
All right, we're going to move on to the next question. I think it was Phantom next. So go ahead, Phantom.
Next, yeah.
Yep.
Hey, Terry, Gray, Tony, thank you so much for hosting this space. It's great. And hi, John, welcome. Thanks for coming and answering questions.
Sure.
I've got two questions, if it's okay to ask. One's going to be business-like, and one's going to be light-hearted, okay? So I'm going to get the light-hearted one out the way, okay? If you have a weekend free or a week free, what do you do for fun?
I'm sorry, could you repeat the question?
Great, check your DMs. Great, check your DMs. Thank you.
If you have a weekend free or a week free, what would you do for fun?
Oh gosh, go to the lake and fish. I love to go out there and relax and fish. That's what I do almost every weekend.
Good. And the serious question is, if this goes to a settlement, who would negotiate for the shareholders on a settlement?
It really depends. If first of all, I don't see a settlement becoming real unless FINRA, DTCC, and the broker dealers were to reach out to Nextbridge and try to negotiate with them. That's the only time I think a settlement would actually be effective is if Nextbridge was involved on that side of it. If there's 2 days of trading, then Nextbridge wouldn't be involved. But again, they'd have to, allow it to happen, so to speak, with FINRA to, would have to allow it as well. But as far as a settlement is concerned, that would be Nextbridge Hydrocarbons. Basically, they would have purview over that because it's their shares.
Okay. Do you think there's a possibility they may actually ask the shareholders on that, maybe via vote?
I don't know. I've never had that topic discussed or discussed up with anybody. I know that they want to do what's best for everybody, and that's for sure. And quite frankly, that involves understanding who their shareholders are. They have no idea how many shareholders they have right now.
Well, thank you, John. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Phantom. Just to let you know, we're up to about 1,200 people in here, and we are running up to the hour. So I am, very aware of John's time. So we're going to run through these questions as quickly as we can. If you're okay with that, John?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you. So who was up next? Sorry.
I think it's Jonna. I think Jonna's next.
Yeah.
Thank you guys for hosting the space, and John, obviously we appreciate everything you've done for the community. Pete Sessions sent a letter on behalf of West Christian and the largest shareholders to MMAT. Do we know if MMAT complied, and has Pete Sessions followed up?
I don't know if Pete has followed up yet. I do know that George received the letter. And I do know they are, doing what they need to do behind the scenes. But George is going to have to be the one that responds to that. I am not going to get in his business.
Okay, and then one other question. Mark Basile had stated that the hearing was contingent on one, the blue sheets being turned over, or two, potentially Mark's response with and a ruling from the judge prior. So some of us are holding off our travel arrangements for that holiday weekend.
Yeah.
Has that changed, or are you just basing it on the 3 days?
Yeah, I'm just basing it on the 3 dates. Mark is the pro on that, so I would believe him over me. But not just basing it on the 3 dates, and quite frankly, if we get notice that there's going to be a hearing, we're only going to have about a week to schedule everything. And the hard part about that, as you know, is that a judge can move that at a moment's notice, and we're stuck in New York and having a cocktail together. I guess are the worst things, but.
All right, perfect. Thank you.
Okay. I believe it's Anna Trades next.
Thank you, Terry. Thanks, John, for coming on the call today. I kind of wanted to touch on what Drew was speaking on about the house, where you were mentioning that, the call from today. I met with McHenry's office twice while I was in DC with the tech staffer. So they're very well aware of our situation. In fact, all of Congress is aware of our situation. And, he was surprised when I went back in and, told him the day I was leaving who Angel was. So, and then because it was brought to our attention that it was Sessions' office that had brought Angel in, and I'm not sure who in Sessions' office brought Angel in to meet with those 18 staffers. But my thought now is that we need to focus on the Government Accountability Office to hold Congress accountable, because why are they taking $62 million in donations from the Citadel? And that's just one hedge fund in 1 year. I think at this point it is much bigger than just FINRA and the SEC not doing their job, because they are given their power by Congress. And Congress is taking money from the people who are essentially robbing the 99.5%. So at what point do we hold Congress accountable? We've sent over 40,000 letters. We have dropped them off. We have had meetings after meetings with them. And really, they've done nothing. I left there, and when I was leaving, Doug from McHenry's office said, yeah, Anna, I thought that Sessions was going to be putting forth questions for response. We haven't seen anything. So at what point how many times do we have to meet with them? I'm just kind of stumped with the whole congressional outreach and the lack of response on that behalf.
I'm 100% with you on the lack of response on that. I know that there's some things going on in the background with Sessions. I know that one of the guy that was out front for us for Sessions is no longer out front, and so I don't want to necessarily give away Pete's thinking on everything, but I agree with you. If you look at the list of the people that are receiving money, it's a long list on both sides of the table, and there's no doubt they've got their ear and they've got their we've got their attention with the dollars they spent, and it's a frustrating aspect of how our political system works. And I do know this, for example, if you remember the bill that was in front of Congress, it was a year or two ago regarding the short selling rule.
HR 4618, the Short Sale Transparency Act.
Right. And, I know a lot of people voted against it, and that could be, or for a couple of reasons. One, that there was other things attached to it, which I haven't fully baked out yet. But secondly, it could be a function of, someone's got their ear. So I don't know. I just know that our system is, unfortunately, a lot of what they call, as you know, called sausage making. And us regular folks don't really understand why things happen the way they do. And it's frustrating because, the market is dirty, as we all know. And now we're finding out that politics is very dirty as well.
Thank you.
Okay. We got a couple quick mics. If we can try to rapid fire these in like 1 minute, it's time for John to get out of here. So we'll go to Quintainment.
Hey, Bonus. Thank you, Terry, Gray, Tony. You guys are rock stars for this. Thank you. John, I know you have a limited amount of time, so I'll try to make it as quick as possible. Just one question for you. So, theoretically speaking, let's say, for example, it drags on well into next year. Will Nextbridge Hydrocarbons be able to essentially hold on in terms of revenue? I know they have drilling obligations and lease requirements, and that they need to have the revenue to be able to keep up with that lease requirement. Will Nextbridge Hydrocarbons be able to essentially weather the storm if this keeps dragging on?
Well, I do know this, that they need to raise capital, and they're going to need to raise capital for, obviously for G&A and overhead, but also, to fulfill the drilling obligation. So, and I know that everyone in that organization is acutely aware of that, so I would expect they'd be working on that already. So, certainly this is costing them time and money to have to deal with this. I know the attorneys have racked up a lot of bills on this, and it's an unfortunate situation they're in. But the answer to that question is, I don't have clarity on that, but I know the people that are involved are acutely aware of what has to happen, and they are, let's just say, very much pot committed, if you have to use a poker term.
Awesome. Thank you for that, John. Thanks again for everything you're doing for us. We're rooting for you every step of the way.
Okay, I appreciate it.
Okay, I believe next rapid fire is going to be Mr. Jeff.
Jeff?
Looks like no Jeff. Maybe next.
Okay, no Jeff, then Trevor. If Jeff's not there, Trevor. Go, Trevor.
It's great. Great space, guys. John, thanks for coming over. You're an absolute gentleman and a straight shooter. I mean, no doubt about that. Just a quick question on the people on the opposite side of this play. Is there a strategy just to do absolutely nothing and just wait for their hand to be forced? By the people on the opposite side of the play, I mean those short, FINRA, the SEC, DTCC, nobody seems to have even turned one card on this. Is that their strategy, that we're going to have to force this issue and there is nobody trying to do anything else in the background that is on the other side of this play?
I'm hearing rumblings that they're all aware, but I just don't expect them to raise their hand and say, "Hey guys, I'm here to fix this." We've wronged everybody. We're going to try to fix this. I don't see that happening. I think, in order for this to play out like we all want, we have to force the issue, and that's either going to be through the public domain or through the courtroom. That's the way it's going to have to happen, I believe.
That's perfect, John. I appreciate the answer to that. Thank you.
Okay, is Jeff there now?
Hey, what's going on, guys?
Welcome in, Jeff.
I just want to say appreciate everybody. This is for John. Hey, John, you don't owe us anything. You don't owe us answers, questions, none of that. And it's just truly, I appreciate you being here. I invested heavily in Torchlight 5 years ago. Put all my eggs in a basket and let it ride. So you being here today it makes me feel good. Because in all reality, you could sit in the corner and never talk to a single one of us. And I do appreciate you for that. I really do. So again, I appreciate the hell out of you, and I'm sure a lot of the community do as well. I could only imagine some of the messages you probably get, but just wanted you to know that. Again, love seeing you, and I appreciate you every time you're on. Okay.
Well, I appreciate that. I will tell you that the messages of support are about 99%, but there are some people who just have a different way of thinking.
I can only imagine.
Sorry, some breaking news, guys. Trading Secrets, Ali has just posted saying that Nextbridge Hydrocarbons has just released something, so I haven't read that yet or seen what it is. So maybe after this immediately, well, finishes imminently, we can pop over there and have a look at that, guys. So I think you're going to wrap this up, Terry.
Yeah. I got to jump, so
Okay.
we can wrap up mine and continue on with your discussion, but I got to jump.
Yeah, absolutely, John. Thank you again for all your time. If you have any last words you'd like to say, please feel free, but we truly appreciate your time.
No, I'm very happy to give it and help however I can. It's important to me that we see this through as a group. I just, when you become the CEO of a company, you feel like you've created a family, and that's the way I feel about it. So I am not going anywhere. I'm going to see it through, and wherever it leads us, I'm going to be there at the end. So
thank you, John. We truly appreciate it. That's exactly what me and Tony and Drew and all of us here on YouTube, Twitter, we're not going anywhere until this thing is settled, and then hopefully one day we're all going to get to meet in Vegas. That is the.
We're not going anywhere. I'm going to open a space immediately after this one, Terry.
Perfect, Drew. That'd be great. Thank you. So.
Thank you, Drew.
Okay.
Thank you once again, John, and thank you to the 1,200 plus people that came in here this evening.
Yeah.
You're all very valued. I'm sorry if not everyone got a mic or got a chance to ask their question. Obviously, you understand why, but I'm sure we'll have another future opportunity to ask John some questions soon. Okay, so
absolutely.
Thank you everyone for joining us this evening. Thank you to Terry for hosting and Tony for joining as a co-host. Thank you to me, because I'm just great sometimes, not all the time, but and slightly modest. Of course, thank you to everyone's input, and especially John Brda for joining us this evening. Drew's going to open a space. Yeah.
All right, guys, everyone hop over to Drew's space, and I'm sure they'll tackle that Nextbridge PR if that just came out. Everyone have a great night. Love and appreciate all y'all. Peace.
Thank you guys. Good night. Bye-bye.